The 2024-25 Women's Super League is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets underway. Now we're on to Liverpool. Fourth in the WSL table last season cemented a solid showing from the Reds, and now they'll be looking to kick on. With their recruitment this summer, we discuss if they've taken a step forwards or backwards and whether they need to do any more business before the season gets underway. This is our 2024-25 season preview for Liverpool. Alright, let's get into it then. We like to start these previews by reflecting on last season, and it was a really strong campaign for Liverpool. They finished fourth in the WSL. They had to beat Manchester United, and they got up to it. They beat Man United in the final 2 game weeks. At the penultimate game week, then obviously United got battered in the final game week. That saw them rise up to fourth in the WSL. Really strong season.
Yeah, very much so. I think I think fifth would have been a really strong campaign. The fact that they broke into the top four, because I do think, especially last season, 2 seasons ago, you had the big four sides. For Liverpool to break into that last campaign was really, really strong. It was an incredible season. They had some tough results along the way, but they also had some brilliant ones. Beating Chelsea at home, they beat Man United, they drew to Arsenal. They went and took points off the big guys. And the biggest problem for Liverpool was sometimes not getting those results across the line against sides lower down the table. But they took points. Did they take points? I don't think they took points off Man City. But they took points off 3 of the big 4 in the WSL. That's a really strong campaign. And what the problem is for Matt Beard and Liverpool is they've got to build on that. Somehow they've got to maintain or better what happened last season. That is going to take some doing. But if they can do it, it would be phenomenal.
Yeah, to be fair, I think they've had quite a decent window. When you are trying to build on something, when you're trying to develop, the best thing to do is actually to restore what's already there and not just pull the team apart.
Yeah.
So in terms of outgoings, there have been a couple and some big ones, but they have done well to replace them. So Emma Koivisto's left to join AC Milan. That, I think, is a big loss. I think Koivisto's quite a solid right back, and yeah, that's a real shame for them because I think she's played very well over the last few seasons. Melissa Lawley has joined rivals Everton. I was somewhat surprised, but I'm not really sure what Liverpool are doing their attack this season. It does point towards them, though, changing formation because they with Lawley leaving, with Shanice van der Sanden leaving, which I think might be a big loss. They are low on attacking options. So Shanice van der Sanden gone to Club de Football Pachuca, I believe. I may be wrong with that pronunciation, but she's always been quite a solid performer. Lawley was quite decent. Does that point towards them changing up front?
I definitely think so, and I think it is correct. I think what Liverpool need to do, and what this business is showing, is they need to decide who your starters are, who's your focal point in attack. Because I felt like last season there were so many options. We saw so many different players get cameos. All the minutes were kind of shared around between 3 or 4 strikers. Losing Van der Sanden, losing Lawley, it feels like Liverpool are just starting to trim their attacking options so that they can have their nailed on number 9, their nailed on forwards, rather than this heavy rotation, which I don't think helps when you need your forwards to get into consistent and strong form. When you have loads of options, it's very difficult for that to happen.
But it does mean when players aren't in form, you can pull them out and you've got lots of options on the bench, which when Roman Haug hasn't been as good as they have wanted, they have had other options there. The other big forward leaving is Missy Bo-Kearns. Now that, I think, is a huge loss. Obviously, she's not been the biggest part of Liverpool's team, but she has had some big stand-up moments, and she's always been a fairly reliable performer, and there's a lot of potential there. So I think there's a huge downside to losing Missy Bo-Kearns. Both her and Miri Taylor have departed for Aston Villa. Miri Taylor was out on loan there last season, and that's a huge loss. I think the back end of last season she was there. So not huge losses, but they have lost a lot of very important, very decent players. And I just feel that while they have kept the defence, and that's the most important thing because they were all really strong last season, they've got a lot of changes attacking areas.
I think what will be interesting is what happens during the season, because Aston Villa could definitely be a club that Liverpool are battling against for league position this season. And you look at Bo-Kearns and Taylor joining Villa. For me, we could see, especially for Missy Bo-Kearns, because Taylor was there on loan for a portion. I do definitely think that for them it's a sidestep, but at some point in the season, could we see that joining Villa is an upgrade? Potentially. So Liverpool, they're very interesting outgoings. If they end up being ahead of teams like Villa, then it'll make sense. If Villa end up jumping them, then they're going to sit back and go, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. Let's switch our focus then to incomings, because they have made a couple of signs. The first of which is Olivia Smith, 20 years old, coming in from Sporting Club de Portugal. She can play. She plays on the left wing, but she can also play in midfield. And this is where the questions start to open for me of how Liverpool are going to play, because obviously they've used a 3-5-2 now, or that was how they played last season. But with them bringing in Smith, who's a winger, and the other signing we're going to talk about in a moment, who's a winger, it definitely points towards them potentially using wide players and moving away from wing backs. Especially now they've lost Koivisto as well. So the big question mark there, and we'll talk about that more in a moment when we look at their full squad screen. But Smith's a really exciting player, plays for Canada. She's not had a whole load of first team minutes yet, but she came through very young at North Toronto Nitros. I did have to Google who they are, but they are a football team. So she started very young there. She was one of the youngest players, I believe, in NWSL history when she made her debut. So very impressive stuff. She's only 20 now, and she's already got a couple of years' experience behind her. So, I think it's a good signing. She prefers the right foot, likes to cut in off that left flank. She's very short at 5'4", though. The problem for me to gauge all the heights is very difficult, because obviously I come from at it from the men's perspective, the men's perspective, that being really short. It's not that short, but it's still relatively short.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good bit of business. I think that she's a very, very exciting player, and I feel like for Liverpool, when in a summer where you've lost a talent like Missy Bowe-Kearns, to replace her with another young and very exciting player in Olivia Smith is very strong, because I think as a football club you always want to have that bracket of players, those couple players that are just they're very young, exciting talents that really could shine for you in the future. And I think Smith is one of those. The fact she's in the WSL already at 20 and she's had so much experience. This will be the third league she's played in at just 20 years old. Is very, very strong. That shows how good she is. If she can deliver for Liverpool in one of the best leagues in the world, that is a huge statement signing for Liverpool, but also it's a huge statement from Smith herself.
Yeah, definitely so. And then we've got the other left winger, Cornelia Capox. Now, there's very little data out here there about Capox, but I know she plays on the left wing. She was playing at Linköpings, I believe is how you pronounce it. We were told the other day when we were mispronouncing it that it's Linköpings. I'm hoping that is correct. So there's not a whole lot of data out there. She also played for, I can't remember who it was in the Swedish league. Or are Linköpings Swedish? I can't remember if they're Swedish or Norwegian. Always get mixed up there. Or Danish. But she's played a lot in Scandinavia. She's coming across now to the WSL, 21 years old. I think this is going to be interesting. She's a decent player, plays off the left flank. Don't know a whole lot about her, but if they are going to play with the left winger this season, I'd expect her to start over Smith. But that's going to be an interesting competition for that left wing spot.
I think she fits into the bracket that I talked about with Smith. It's that young, exciting player that's coming in from abroad into one of the big leagues, and if she can deliver, it could really, her career could grow massively, and it's a very exciting prospect for her and for Smith. I both feel they're very similar mould of player, and not on the pitch, but in terms of the actual characteristics of the move, it makes sense for both Liverpool and for both players involved.
Yeah, definitely. And then their final signing has added a lot of experience to their defence, and it's Gemma Evans. She is obviously coming in from Manchester United, which, again, is crossing that rivalry boundary. But it's going to be interesting to see how she performs, Gemma Evans. I never really rated her as a top player at Manchester United, but I think her versatility will be useful for Liverpool. She plays left back or centre half, so she can play either role there. She's very experienced. However, her availability hasn't really been there the last few years. She's had a couple injuries, and I just don't think she's at that top level. But if she can come in as a solid, reliable backup option, I think that'll be okay.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one, because obviously you'd view this as her, she's stepping down, but she'll still play a squad role at Liverpool. But obviously, in the tail of the table last season, Liverpool were ahead of United. So
I love that phrasing, tail of the table.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a weird one from a Liverpool point of view. But she'll make up the numbers, and she'll definitely put a good shift in when they need her to.
Yeah, I think she will be a good option. Let's then look at Liverpool in the squad screen. Now, I've put them as a 3-5-2. However, this could look very different. We know that, as I mentioned, I think this could be a 4-3-3 this season. If you look at right wing back, they've only got Parry who can play there, and she's more of a right winger anyway. So I think it definitely points towards them going 4-3-3. But since we haven't seen, I've not watched any of their pre-season yet because it's not widely available. I haven't been able to see if they've got a 4-3-3. We will see in the opening weekend what they're doing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did change shape. So let's review the squad then, and obviously what it could look like. So in goal, they've got Rachel Laws, who's been a fairly solid option there. They've also got Micah, who has played, I think she had played 10 games last season, so they did have a bit of rotation there. And then Kirby as well as a third choice goalkeeper. On Football, they've got another 4 keepers listed, but none of them are on the Liverpool website. So I think these are the only 3 that will be in contention to play. I think Laws will probably start most of the matches, but there has been a lot of rotation there with Micah. So if Laws isn't performing, they will be, Matt Beard will very much, won't fear putting a different goalkeeper in there. Then at right centre half, they've got Bonner and Clark. Gemma Bonner, really solid campaign last year. Her, Fisk and Fahey were all really strong last year, and I think they'll continue to do that. I think obviously Clark as well. Then they've got, Gemma Evans joining, can play left centre half, Fisk as well. I've put Evans in over Fisk, but that could easily be the other way around. And Silcock is a youngster. I'm not 100% sure if she's still on Liverpool's books, because on some sites it says she's a free agent. On Liverpool's website, she's there. So I took that as she's still at the club. She's 19 anyway, and I don't expect her to get a whole load of minutes. But we might see her start to get involved this season. So they've got options there at centre half. If they were to go to a 4-back, I think we could see someone like Clark play right back. And that'd be just a more defensive right back option. And then obviously Gemma Evans could play left back. They've also obviously at left wing back got Matthews and Hines. If they were to go to a left winger formation now, I could see Matthews playing left winger and Taylor Hines playing that left back role in rotation potentially with Gemma Evans. So they've got options on that left hand side. The middle 3 is the other one which makes me think they might go to a 4-3-3 or something like that. Because they've got obviously Fuka Nagano, they've got Holland, and they've got Hobinger, who are all really solid. So they probably want to keep that together. And actually playing as a more traditional midfield 3 without the wing backs, where it feels very condensed, very narrow, might give them the freedom to roam a little bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Hobinger play more of an attacking midfield role. Because she was fantastic last season. She put up really good numbers. They've got Cherry Holland in there, who is an absolute warrior. So I think keeping her in there is really crucial. And Fuka Nagano, who had a really strong season last year and will be looking to really kick on next season as Liverpool look to, well, I wouldn't say kick on up the league, because I think they'll want to stay 4th. They know they probably won't break into that top 3, but 4th would be fantastic for them again. So that will be what they'll be hoping to do, and then obviously build on that and look towards pushing it into that top 3. As I say, right wing back, they've only really got Parry, so I think they may change shape. And then their forward options. Now, all the wingers can play up front, so they could still play a 3-5-2. They could shoehorn someone in at right wing back. We'll see. Obviously, they've got Romain Howe, who needs a better season. Really 100%. Needs a good season, because she's not really found scoring form since joining from Roma, and that's been a real shame. She was when she was signed, there was a lot of belief that the fortunes would change for the Liverpool women's team. A lot of people were saying that they didn't invest enough in the women's team. They focused everything in the men's side, and they have started to invest now in the women's team, but Howe just hasn't worked out, and eventually they've got to cut their losses. So this season is crucial for her. But up front, they've also got Kiernan and they've got Daniels as options as well, who are both more out-and-out number 9s. So they've got striking options, and we did see Kiernan, she's just signed a contract renewal. We did see her put in some good performances, particularly that Chelsea game. I believe she was the one who scored. So she had some really stand-up performances last season. Then the second striker, who will be probably not quite as advanced if they do play a front 2. So these are all wingers, but they can drop in and get involved, or they'll play out wide if they do play with wingers this season. They've got Mia Enderby, who is really starting to come into her own now. Obviously a blossoming young talent. I think she's a really exciting player. She was fantastic at the under-19 Euros that we saw over the summer, and if she can continue that form into the WSL this season, that will be a very dangerous prospect. Very good pen taker as well. And then obviously Capox and Smith we spoke about earlier, both left wingers, very good players. Obviously Smith can play in the middle, so if they were to play this 3-5-2, they could keep doing that. But it definitely points towards them potentially going for a 4-3-3 or something more attacking this season. So I'm excited to see what Matt Beard comes up with. He's been, over the summer, he's been scheming, and I want to see what he's been up to. But let's then look at the first 5 games, because seasons can be made or broken in the first 5 games, because you can find yourself, especially in the WSL, where we only have 20 matches. The first 5 games, that's about a quarter of the season.
Yeah.
Or there or thereabouts. So you can tell a lot from that. They've got an okay run, I think. They start with Leicester at home, then they have West Ham away, but I think they're both games that they should be winning quite comfortably.
Yeah.
6 points then after the first 2 matches, and then Tottenham away. I think, yes, Tottenham have, Naz is going to be a better player this season. We expect Vinberg is coming into own, and they've signed Ras, so it's going to take time for them to adapt. And, losing Clinton, losing Bizet, big losses. I don't really know where I put Tottenham right now. When we do our predictions a couple of weeks' time, I'm just going to randomise it, see what happens. But yeah, I think Tottenham will be intriguing. But that's a game I think Liverpool will feel they can win.
It's the game you keep your eyes on, because if Liverpool do win it, then suddenly you're like, okay, it looks like they can be best of the rest again. It looks like they're going to put up another decent season. If they are to drop points on it, then maybe you start with a few questions. In terms of has that level dropped off. So I think that Tottenham game will actually be, because Leicester and West Ham I don't think will tell us too much. I think Liverpool should take 3 points from both those games. Tottenham will be the game that will tell us a little bit more about how Liverpool's season's going to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked though if Leicester did get something. They've got a new manager in there, Amandine Mikel. That could be a really tough match, and that would be telling as to, well, it may not be telling, but it could indicate that Leicester are climbing up the table and Liverpool could be due a slip off. But we will see. At Manchester City then in game week 4 at home, City with a duck in their record against the top 4 sides last season. They'll be hoping to right that wrong instantly. At home as well, you never know, but it does feel like a game that's heavily weighted towards Manchester City. They are in the title fight. They do not want to be dropping points to Liverpool.
No.
So there will be an increased focus there. And then Crystal Palace at home in the game before the international break. No excuse not to win that. A newly promoted side and at home. I think if I was going to make a prediction now as to how many points they get, I'd probably say 9. I think they will lose to City. I think they will probably lose to Tottenham, but I'm not sure. They could be on 12 points.
Exactly. I think they'll be happy with 9. I think that there's definitely I can definitely see them picking up 12, and that would be incredible to take 12 off your first 5. It could put you up the sharp end.
Well, they could be at top of the league.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, 12 points from your first 5 when Arsenal have to play Chelsea and City, and obviously City play Arsenal and Chelsea play Arsenal. If Arsenal
could be...
Well, Arsenal could be in a terrible position. Or they could have taken points off of your team. So we don't really know what the situation is going to be. But I think if Liverpool can just get their heads down, get results done early in these first 5 matches, they're going to put themselves in a really good position. And then when they come back from the internationals, they've got, they can then think, we've got some tough games now, but we've had a good run. Let's try and build on that. Let's use the belief from that. So I think they've got the kindest fixture list of all of the teams that do OSL, if I'm honest. Man City it's a tough game, but other than probably Chelsea, but then every game for Chelsea is a game they should win. Yeah. So it's tough to say in that regard. But comparatively, they're playing one team that's better than them, one team who's equal, and a few teams and 3 teams they shouldn't have any issue against. So I think it's quite a nice run for Liverpool to start the season, and it's going to be interesting season for them as they look to try and cement 4th. Now, obviously, 4th will come with the added perk of Europa League football, potentially. We expect now... We don't really know how the Europa League's going to work, if they're going to add a 4th spot for that, or if it's just going to be the Champions League qualification knockouts or what. But they are bringing the UEFA Women's Europa League next year. So there is more Europe for up for the grabs, and I think Liverpool will be keen to try and get that, especially with United looking a little bit shaky at times. Obviously Liverpool beat them to 4th last season. They'll be hoping to do that again. It's going to be interesting. And I think United have lost more than they've gained. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over this season. But I'm very excited. We are only, very close now to start the WSL season. It's next Friday. Next week, obviously, we've still got previews coming out, so look out for all of those. If you have enjoyed today's one, we've done loads of previews already, so go and check those out as well. We're getting very close to start the WSL season. Next week, we'll be doing our fancy WSL team, so look out for those. I think I'm going to be looking at some Liverpool defenders especially because they're very good value and they did very well last season. And then we'll have our full predictions out just before the start of the season, so look out for all of that. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.